"Hi everyone, please help me to reach 1,000 subscribers." It happened so casually that no one else seemed to recognize it as a defining moment. Alina slid the envelope across the dining table toward her son. "This should take care of the next few mortgage payments," she said. "You can finally breathe for a while." David released a long breath, relief washing over his face before he tucked the check safely into his wallet. His wife squeezed his hand, grateful tears brightening her eyes. The conversation never stopped. Plates shifted. Someone asked for more potatoes. The television in the family room carried on with the evening news. Ice clinked softly inside half-empty glasses. 3 seats away, Julia sat perfectly still. She had noticed the amount written on that check. Years earlier, she had needed less than that to save herself from losing everything. After unexpected medical bills and a series of layoffs, she had fallen behind on rent. She remembered standing outside a laundromat, staring at an eviction notice with trembling hands before calling her mother. She had cried quietly into the phone. Her mother had listened. Then she'd said, "You have to learn to handle your own problems. Independence matters." Julia remembered every word. She remembered working double shifts afterward, selling jewelry she had inherited from her grandmother, skipping meals some weeks so utility bills could be paid. She had survived because there had been no other option. Now, watching David accept help so freely, she realized something she had spent years trying not to admit. The rules had never been the same. She lowered her napkin. "Would you have done this for me?" Silence settled over the table. David glanced down at his plate. Alina blinked in surprise, as if the question itself had never occurred to her. "Always been different," she said carefully. Julia waited. "Always been capable." Explanation landed harder than an insult. It wasn't cruelty. It was categorization. David's struggles inspired protection. Julia's strength excused neglect. Because she handled crises efficiently, people assumed she wasn't carrying them heavily. Because she endured, they decided she required less. Julia pushed back her chair. "Alina," her mother called softly. But Julia had already picked up her keys. She wasn't furious. She wasn't interested in making a scene. She simply realized she no longer respected the role she'd been assigned. Being dependable had become its own punishment. For more than 2 decades, Julia had made everyone else's lives run smoothly. She drove relatives to airports before dawn, organized holidays nobody thanked her for planning, spent evenings helping David revise resumes after another disappointing job search, untangled insurance paperwork whenever her mother felt overwhelmed. She remembered birthdays, refilled prescriptions, solved problems before anyone else even recognized they existed. Eventually, her effort became invisible. Like electricity behind walls, everyone noticed its absence only after it stopped working. So Julia stopped. Not dramatically. She simply quit volunteering. When David called asking for help reviewing loan documents late at night, she gave him the number of a financial consultant. When her mother complained about transportation to appointments, Julia researched local services and sent the information. She answered questions. She stopped carrying responsibilities that weren't hers. At first, the family dismissed it. They assumed she was stressed. Then inconveniences began multiplying. Deadlines were missed, appointments forgotten. Holiday preparations stalled halfway through December. Small problems accumulated into larger ones because nobody understood how much unseen work Julia had been performing all along. One evening, her aunt phoned. "Your mother says you've pulled away," she said gently. "Are you okay?" Julia stood in her kitchen unpacking groceries. For a moment, she considered giving the usual response. "I'm fine." Instead, she answered honestly. "I think I'm exhausted." Truth surprised even her. Months later, Alina slipped outside a pharmacy during a rainstorm and fractured her wrist. It wasn't life-threatening, but it disrupted everything. Julia arrived at the hospital after work and found David struggling at the discharge desk. Medication instructions, insurance approvals, follow-up appointments, transportation arrangements, questions piled up faster than answers. The coordinator finally asked, "Who usually handles these things?" No one spoke. David looked overwhelmed. Alina looked uncomfortable. Julia suddenly saw the family system with startling clarity. Everyone had mistaken her effort for inevitability. They thought things simply worked. The coordinator turned toward her. "The daughter?" Julia hesitated before nodding. The staff's attention shifted immediately. Competence has a way of revealing itself during emergencies. People recognize reliability when chaos arrives. For one dangerous moment, Julia considered slipping back into familiar patterns, taking over. Absorbing everything, disappearing into service. Instead, she said, "I'll help coordinate, but we need additional support." Her mother's expression changed, not anger, confusion, as though boundaries sounded strange spoken in Julia's voice. Together, they arranged home health visits, transportation assistance, medication management, professional support. Julia participated fully. She simply refused to sacrifice herself invisibly. The difference transformed everything. Care no longer meant self-erasure. Nearly a year later, Julia bought a townhouse across the city. It wasn't extravagant, just peaceful. A quiet neighborhood, a balcony overlooking maple trees, sunlight pouring through the kitchen windows every morning. A place that belonged entirely to her. She didn't announce the purchase with pride or resentment. She simply moved in. One Sunday afternoon, Alina arrived carrying a small potted plant wrapped in tissue paper. She wandered slowly through the house. No stacks of unfinished paperwork. No emergency lists taped to the refrigerator. No signs of someone living in constant readiness to rescue others. Finally, Alina stopped in the living room. "Built something beautiful here," she said. Julia looked around. For years, she had believed love was earned through usefulness if she gave enough. Solved